Imagine you're putting together a puzzle. Piece by piece, it starts to form a picture. But as you reach the end, you find there's a piece missing. It's frustrating, right? In our RPA journey, data sequences can sometimes be like this puzzle, unexpectedly missing a piece or being empty. In the previous sessions, we ventured through various element methods. These tools, like puzzle pieces, help us extract specific data. But remember those times when our sequence was empty? Using methods like first or last would lead to an error, like a missing puzzle piece. Thankfully, LINQ offers safety nets. Methods like first or last or default serve as our backup, ensuring we have a default value to fall back on. And today's star, 𝗬𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪, is another such safety net. It seamlessly bridges the gap, ensuring that whether our sequence has data or not, we're never left stranded. Today, we'll explore how 𝗬𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪 can be paired with other element methods, and also other LINQ methods, ensuring a smooth and error-free RPA experience. Let's get started. 𝗬𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪 returns the elements of an IEnumerable of T, or a default valued singleton collection if the sequence is empty. This means, this method doesn't return only one element like the other element methods, but a sequence of elements. Here we have to differentiate between two scenarios. Either the sequence contains elements, or it's empty. If the sequence contains elements, we get exact the same sequence as result. But if the sequence is empty, we get a sequence that contains only one element, which is the default value. Let's check the following example to understand it better. Suppose I have the following integer array, that contains the following numbers. Using the array variable with 𝗬𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪 method, I will get the following result, which is exact the same sequence I had as input. So, the output is a sequence, not only one element. Let's now use _where method in the query in this way. As you can see, the result of this part will be an empty sequence, because no number is greater than 6. Using 𝗬𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪 I will get the default value of the sequence, which is a sequence containing only one element, which is the default value. So, here we have an integer sequence, therefore we get the default value of integers, which is 0. But as mentioned, 𝗬𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪 method doesn't return only one element, but a sequence of elements. So, the result of this query will be the following sequence, that contains only one element, which is the default value. This is how does 𝗬𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪 method works in general. Let's now check the different overloads of this method. 𝗬𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪 method has two overloads. The first one is used with empty braces. It returns the elements of the specified sequence, if the sequence contains elements. Or the type parameter's default value in a singleton collection if the sequence is empty. So, here we either get the same sequence as result, or the type's default value if the sequence is empty. The second one is used with a default value inside the braces. It returns the elements of the specified sequence, if the sequence contains elements. Or the specified value in a singleton collection if the sequence is empty. So, here we either get the same sequence as result, or the default value we entered inside the braces if the sequence is empty. Let's check some examples to understand where and how to use this method. I will start with a simple example about list of strings. Suppose I have the following list, that contains different fruit names. I have the following query to return only the fruits, that start with letter G. I added the query twice. The first one contains the method 𝗬𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪 with the first overload, and the second one is using the second overload. Both queries are written in method syntax. Let's check the output of each query. As you can see, the result of _where method is an empty sequence, because no name meets the condition. In the first query I will get an empty sequence, that contains only one element. This element is an empty string, which is the default value of string type. The second query returns the following sequence, that contains also only one element. The element is of type string, and it's the default value I added inside the braces. So, both overloads return the default value, either the type's default value or the entered default value, depending on the used overload. In case the sequence contains elements, both queries return the same sequence. This is how to use both overloads with a list of string. Let's now check another example about using the method with XML. I have the following XML document, that contains library as root element. This element contains 6 book elements. Each one has 2 attributes, title and author. Suppose I want to get a list of all elements, that meet a specific condition. Let's see how to do that in UiPath. I created two variables. The first one is of type X document, where I have the XML document. The second one is a list of X element, to store the elements I will return from the XML document. I define the XML document in this assign activity. There are 6 different book elements. After that I wrote a LINQ query to return the elements I need. Here I have the data source, which is the X document. After that I used where clause to filter the elements. The condition is to return only the elements, where the attribute title contains the word title. At the end I am selecting the elements and converting them to a list using toList method. The result will be stored in this variable, which is a list of X element. After the query I added for each loop to print out the result. Let's execute the query to check the output. As you can see, I got the following elements as result, because each one contains the word title in the title attribute. Let's now change the condition to retrieve only the elements, where the title is equal to this new value, which doesn't exist. I will execute the code again. As you can see, I didn't get any element, because no element meet the condition. In some scenarios an exception will be thrown, depending on the query I have. To avoid exceptions or empty results, I will use DefaultIfEmpty method as following. Here I use the second overload with the following default value. As you know, I am selecting X elements, therefore the default value must be of type X element. Here I defined a default value of type X element. If the sequence is empty, I will get this default value as result. Let's execute the code again. As you can see, I got now only one element in the list, which is the default value I entered. In this way, no exception will be thrown or no empty result will be retrieved, but the default value is retrieved. Let's change the condition again, so that we have a sequence of elements, not an empty sequence. I will execute the code again. As you can see, I got all elements that meet the condition. And I didn't get the default value, because the sequence is not empty. So, if the sequence contains elements, we get the sequence, else we get the default value. This is how to use DefaultIfEmpty method with XML document. The DefaultIfEmpty method functions consistently, regardless of the data type it's applied to. It's most commonly used in conjunction with the group join clause, which I covered in a previous video. This is the query to perform left or right outer join. Within this context, I've employed the method on the group variable to return a default value if the group is empty. The method is used here inside the query, not after the query. So, you can integrate the method both within the query or subsequently after it. Essentially, it provides a default value when the group variable is devoid of content. In upcoming videos, we might delve into using this method further. For now, that covers the essentials of the DefaultIfEmpty method.